Hey guys, today's tutorial is a witchy brew. I call it Drink Up Witches. We're going to draw and then paint in this spooky Halloween themed cocktail. So in the post I asked you to go ahead and paint a neutral gray background. So I'm just going to jump right in. If you haven't already painted the background, please just pause this video and go ahead and do so, let it dry, and then come back and we will draw. If you're using the traceable, go ahead and trace it, or use it, transfer the image onto your canvas. So I'm just going to draw here on one side, just a slightly slanted line. And actually, I'm going to take off that line because I want this centered. So I'm going to do it a little bit closer in. So this is about 2 inches. So I want the line to come right about here. So just a slightly slanted line. And then over here as well, just a slightly not so slanted. There we go, slightly slanted line. And then we're going to connect the bottom with that a curve. We're going to come up, what is that, about a 1/2 inch, and add another curve there. Okay. And for those of you, if you can't really see this, I'll go over it with a dark charcoal if I have to. Here, I'll review the footage. Now I'm going to do another curved line at the top, and then a C there, and a backward C there, and then connect those two with a curved line. Now these lines, as with the other tutorials, can get fixed as you go if you don't like how it looks. I'm going to do another line underneath. This will be kind of like the little rim you have on glasses. Just a little tiny one. And here's the fun part, drawing oozing blood. So for right now I'm just drawing just outlines. I think I want this one to drip all the way down like I have in the traceable, like it's puddling on the ground. Another curved line here for where the beverage sits, and then I'll have some more blood just kind of looking like it's dripping down the back of it. And then, just for a little fun, instead of an olive, we have an eyeball floating in our cocktail. And just a couple lines here for a toothpick. Okay? Okay. So you can kind of see the line, so I'm just going to leave it because you'll start to see it more as we start painting. So I know glass can be a little intimidating, but this really is not. This is going to be just a fun painting. It's not going to be super duper intense or anything. So we're going to start off with the green. I'm going to make the cocktail, this fun and bright green. So I'm going to mix the phthalo, or your bright or emerald green, with a little bit of your yellow color, and it's going to give us this like really bright kind of witchy green. And I'm just going to I'm not going to paint where the dripping blood is. I'm just going to come right down and fill in everywhere in the glass except for this footer here with this bright green color. this kind of reminds me of those apple teenies. I don't know if those are even popular anymore, but back in my day, those were quite popular. I enjoyed a few in my time. But we're gonna call this a witch's brew, because that sounds more Halloween-y. And I don't know of any apple martini that had an eyeball floating in it. At least I hope there are none. Okay. I was trying to think of some fun things to call this. Frog's breath. Stuff like that, because I knew I wanted something green because I thought it would be very eye-catching. But witch's brew just seemed to fit. Okay. So now, you know, sometimes when you're looking in a glass and it seems to be a little bit more transparent, or the color's brighter towards the bottom, maybe they've floated a little bit of something, I don't know. So I'm just gonna do a little glow. I added a bit more of my yellow to the mixture, and I'm just adding that kind of right here at the bottom, just to add a little flair. My paint is drying pretty fast tonight. I think it's pretty dry in here with this cooler weather, so I just added a touch of my glazing medium, or you can use water. So just a tiny bit of this just along the bottom. Give that little transparent glow feel, I guess. Down here. I'm going to blend this out some. With the original deeper color here. Just so it's not so stark. There we go. Ooh, I love that. It really looks like it's glowing. There we go. All right. Cocktail's looking nice here. All right. Rinsing that out, and I'm gonna move to the blood dripping. Now, if you remember the tutorial from yesterday, your bonus video, I showed you how to paint dripping blood. So I'm going to follow that. If you don't have the alizarin crimson, then just go with your straight cadmium. Instead of going, you know, the three ways to paint it, then just go ahead and the three different colors, just go with the 2 different colors like I explained in the blood tutorial. So instead of doing this alizarin crimson, you'll just do straight cadmium, red or bright red, whatever you're using. And then mix that with the burnt umber to do the darker edges. And then your highlights, which I will be showing you here in a bit how to do that. So I've just got this, I guess, rim of blood here that then drips down the side of the glass. You know, I did forget to paint the green in here, so I'll get to that in a bit when I'm done with this oozing drippy blood. after I get this first coat down. Okay, so I filled in with the alizarin crimson, and now I'm gonna go in up here and do the green up here because I did forget to do that. So I gotta mix it again. Green, the phthalo green or bright green, emerald green, and some cadmium yellow or primary yellow, bright yellow, whatever you use for your yellow color. And I'm just going to come right to the edge there. And the only thing I'm going to be careful of is that I don't cover the eyeball that I sketched out. The toothpick I'm not overly worried about because that is easy to get back. Well, the eyeball would be too, but still. All right. If your paint starts drying on you, go ahead and use water or glazing medium to smooth it out, make it take a little longer to dry out. Okay, we've got that pretty well covered here. Okay, so now I'm gonna come in and do my blood on the back rim there. Again with the alizarin crimson, I'm just gonna do the base for my rim. I got a little bit outside of my glass, so I'm going to take a clean brush with some clean water, and I'm just going to come just clean up those edges. You can always just wait until the end and paint over with some gray again. But if you mixed your gray from black and white, it's hard to remix identically, so you'd end up having to paint the entire background, which could just be a little frustrating, that's all, to get around all the edges. But by all means, if that's easier for you and you'd rather do it that way, then go ahead. Okay. All right. Okay, so more technical issues. I'm sorry, every single camera I seem to use keeps having them, so I'm just going to show you again what I just did. The liquids are reflective, so you're going to see both reflections and light and even shadows on top of them. So I wanted a shadow over here, so I'm taking just the plain phthalo green and making a little bit of a darker section here. And then I want to get a light reflection. So I'm going to come over on this side and do the same thing. I added a smidge of white to my color. And then I'm just adding this, and I'm trying to steer clear because there would be a shadow for the eyeball. So I'm making sure that I leave that space for the eyeball. It looked like an eyeball reflection there. Okay, so now we have a little bit of a gloss. I'm going to add even more intense gloss on here by adding almost straight white. I'm not cleaning my brush, so there is going to be a little bit of a tinge of green to it. And I'm flattening out my brush a bit so I can end up with kind of a little flat line. And I'm going to come over here and just do, actually, you know what? I'm going to use my really thin brush. That'll give me my really crisp line that I would like for my reflection here. And I'm just going to have that come around a little and maybe come. Okay, so I cleaned up because I didn't really like that bit of a little swirl I did in there, so I decided to just stick with right around the edge. And I'm going to come in on this side and do another little reflection here, right around the edge in the glass. Okay? And I think I like that. Maybe a few little around the edge, but it doesn't need to be all the way around. All right, so now we're going to get down into the glass and reflections of the glass in itself. And with that, we're going to get all the green out of our brush. As much green as we can possibly get out of the brush. And we're just going to go with straight white. And I am going to use my glazing medium because you don't want this to be super duper intense here. And brush some off. And we're going to come down, let's see, maybe like right in here. Just a little bit on the side of the glass. Wipe some off. And maybe have it coming across. Wipe some more off. Have it coming down like that. And again, I don't really like that, so I'm going to rinse, clean brush with water. And then I'm going to just erase what I just did, basically. And you see it does not hurt the painting below once that paint is dry. So I'm just going to stick with just the little bit of a reflection on the side. And I may fiddle with that a little as we go along. Okay, and I want a pretty nice little reflection. Maybe I use my liner brush here. Get a little bit of a reflection, maybe right here. On the glass, maybe a bit right in here. And this kind of shows that the glass kind of curves a bit. And let's get some right here, kind of going around. Okay. Let's see. I'm working on a little bit of a reflection over here. And then I went along the bottom here, just a little shine along the bottom. And maybe a touch of gray here. To get a little bit more of a little bit of a reflection going where the edge of the glass would be. Okay. Now I'm going to take a smidge of just the plain green. Get the water off. Just that darker green. And we're going to go right along the edge here. Oops, got too much water. We're going to go along the edge where the glass, the bottom of the glass is here. Just to show the edge of my drink. And then over. Okay, so I have switched cameras again, so hopefully this doesn't continue. All right, so now I'm gonna start doing some shadows in the glass so that hopefully we can see that this is a bit reflective here. Okay, so I'm just taking my thinnest brush And I made kind of a dark gray. And I'm just going to come through and do a few. I got a little bit too wet there. Do a few, you know, pretty dark reflections in here. As if you're looking, you know, when you're looking at a glass, you will see many, many, many reflections of all shapes and sizes in here. And I'm going to bring that up to just under the edge of that glass, like that. Add a bit of a highlight. I'm going to get the black out. Add a bit more of a highlight than low light. Here, just a little bit of that here. And then we're going to reflect some of that green in the glass. Okay, so the green will come in, you know, in here, kind of butt up to this white. And we're going to have a touch of green over here too. And maybe a tiny bit there. I'm going to work with a bit more of a lighter tone. So white, if you get a little bit of the green in it, that's okay. I'm going to brush some off, and we're just going to start doing some strokes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a dry brush, any size or shape, and I'm just going to drag it along. This is just going to help us create those thinner reflections that you might see in your glass. You could do this with dry brushing. I find it a little difficult sometimes to accomplish with dry brushing. It's a very hard technique. You need the right kind of brush. And so this is the method I use. There we go. Let's get a little bit more of that dark. And I am just playing with colors here. There is no wrong or right, just playing around to try to get those reflections in there. Make it really look like, hey, that's a glass. Okay. And I think over here. Now I'm going to add a tiny line of almost pure black. So I'm adding a touch of white using my glazing medium. And I'm going to come in underneath my glass and around the blood here. And I am going to take my brush and I'm going to smooth that out. You can use a tiny bit of glazing medium if you want to really smooth it out here. And this is going to really help make that look like a shadow and like it's really popping off that canvas there. That dried a bit, so there we go. my light source is coming kind of from this way, so I'm cleaning up a bit of the shadow here, because I realized there would not be a shadow right there if it's coming down this way. So there we go. All right, there will still be one right under the edge of the glass because the light's coming from here. You're learning probably a lot more than you ever wanted to know about light sources here, but that's part of what goes along with painting. So I'm actually going to go right back under the glass and just do a harder line there. Get up some excess water and just go right back over it. And the same thing with the blood there. Okay. All right. So we're doing pretty good here. And I am going to maybe do a little bit of green, get any excess water off so I don't have trouble, and just come down the edge and maybe come in like this. So a lot of with glasses, it just picks up colors from all over the place. All right, I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna come in with a bit more of, you know, once we get that, I really want a bit more of a shine right in here. So I'm gonna come in with some stark white and just really make that a bit more shiny. So we have a light coming from a couple places, but anyway, so I'm gonna finish the blood now. I'm gonna take a thinner round brush. I've got my alizarin crimson down. If you remember, we mixed that with a little bit of burnt umber to make a really dark, deep, deep, deep red. If you're not using the alizarin, you just mix it with the cadmium. And I'm coming in here and just going around. Since I want my highlights to be coming from the top, it'll be lighter up at the top, darker down at the bottom. This puddle down here is going to have a lot of darkness to it. I'm not trying to be too perfect with the light sources, but enough that someone could look at this and go, oh, yep, that's real. Okay. And I'm going kind of fast here because I don't want to make this so incredibly long or so incredibly difficult for you that you get frustrated. You do not have to brush as quickly as I am on your painting. Okay, so now I'm going to come in on the back and do pretty much the same thing, going along the bottom of the dripping blood. Okay, and now we're going to add some brightness with some straight cadmium red coming in here. Along the edge. And if this is splotchy, I'm not going to worry too much about it. Because it will all work out in the end. Just keep working around. And now I'm going to take my glazing or water or whatever and just blend where I put the edges there so it doesn't look quite as broken or stark, I should say. And if you have to go back over it, by all means go back over it with a darker color, maybe your alizarin or your brown mix, whatever works best for you here. Just blending a bit so it is not that really hard, stark line. This will help it look a bit more realistic on there. Okay. Okay. I really need to work on this one because this one got a really hard edge. There we go. Okay. All right. Maybe blend a bit up into here. A little bit. So we're just blending. Sometimes taking a step back from it will help you see what needs to change. I'm going to come in with my straight cadmium and just add a few little here and there for this. And again, you're going to blend if you need to. But I think it might be okay for the most part. Just a few touches. There we go. All right, so we've got that. Now we want those real shiny spots on the blood, because this is a liquid after all. So I think I'm just gonna go kind of around the rim. Oops, let me get my thin brush. Kind of around the rim there. Just get a little bit of a reflection on the rim. Okay, and we are almost done, guys. Okay, maybe a little bit around this side, coming around, and let's see, keep that going around, and then where that little rim we painted was, I'm just gonna do a little bit, and then I think I'm gonna tone that down because that's just a smidge too bright for me. There we go. Okay, and maybe the same thing on this side. Yeah. And come in on that a little bit. Come in with maybe a little tiny bit of a light reddish pink and come in here. And I'm just touching them up so they're not quite so stark there. All right. And then we're going to come in and maybe do a few little highlights in here. Just a few lines. We're not doing big blobs like we did in the when we were doing the blood droplets. Just some lines coming down. Let's see. Get a little bit more white there. Some glazing liquid to thin it out and help it spread. A little bit coming around like that. Just wherever you think you'd like to see some highlights on your dripping blood. You're not going to have any really on the back there because that's the back of the painting. You won't really see it. Just some little bit of shine coming down. All right. And I think my last touch maybe to put a tiny bit of a darker green line here, just to show that that is the edge. And I messed it up. Okay, let's try that again. Just right there on the edge. And you can take a dry brush and just smooth that out. So I think maybe my light source is coming this way and not maybe that way, but whatever. All right, so now we're gonna do the eyeball. And this will go fast. First, we're gonna do burnt umber for the toothpick. And have that come through the eyeball. Okay, now for our eyeball, obviously the majority of an eye is white. So we're gonna come in and just paint it white. This may require a couple coats. So just get white in the majority. And I thought it would be fun, since this is Halloween, to do a purple eye, because, you know, it doesn't have to be super real, right? So we're doing, the color is purple. And then the center, of course, is going to be black. Okay. Okay. So now I'm gonna come back in with the white to fill that back in, to do the second coat. And you can do some fun things with this eyeball. If you want to make it bloodshot, you can. But I don't think I'm going to do that. But you can just play around and just have loads of fun with the eyeball. Okay, come in with more purple, do a second coat of the purple. And then the black for that pupil. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just shade a little tiny bit around the edges, just to make it look more 3D. So just go all the way around the very edge with like a grayish color, and we'll blend that in just a second. With some white. I'm running out of my glazing medium, but I'm going to take glazing medium and some white. I think I need to add more glazing medium because that one is getting gross with color. And some white, so glazing medium and straight white. And we're going to come in and just kind of blend around so there's not a harsh line there where that shadow is, and just keep blending. Okay, and that, my friends, is your Witch's Brew cocktail. You'll need to sign your name like I'm going to do in just a second. But I just want to work on this shadowing a little bit more. There we go. Maybe a touch more, whoops, not purple. Touch more gray there, right around the very edge. And I'll blend again with the white and the glazing liquid. There we go. That looks much better. All right, guys. Now I'm gonna sign my name. I don't know what color I'm gonna use. Actually, you know what? Real quick, I'm gonna add just a smidge more highlights just to make the back of the glass look kind of realistic there. That was too much. There we go. And smooth that out a bit. And just drag that. If it's too much, wet your brush and take some of it off. All right. There we go. I like that. All right, and you can go in and clean up around the edges if you want to, like I said, with either the gray paint or whatever you want. I think I'm just gonna do a black signature this time. Or that's purple, yeah, purple, because it'll match the eye, it'll pull from the eye. Okay. There we go.